Hi, and welcome back to the Mortgage Broker Broadcast. My guest this week is Julia Smith from the Openwork Partnership. Julia is a regional business consultant, and I wanted to get Julia onto the podcast to talk about what she does with firms, what she does with business owners to help them and grow the business as part of the Openwork Partnership. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to get on there. Also, as well, Julia is such a motivated person. I have the luxury and the benefit of dealing with Julia on a regular occasion, and she is just really helped me grow my business. She's a great person to bounce ideas off. She's always motivated, always very positive, and a real sort of good person to have in your armor as a business owner, to bounce ideas off and just feel as though somebody that's outside the business can help you make those business decisions that you need to make. So we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about her background, her history. We're going to talk about what she does. Also talk about mindset, growth, protection, awards and recognition that she's up for. So yeah, let's just get Julia onto the podcast. So welcome onto the podcast, Julia. How are you?
I am absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Craig. And I have been so excited for today's session with you.
Well, so excited. I've been asking you for months and months and months, and I finally got you to come onto the podcast.
I'm obviously very shy, but I do watch the podcasts and I enjoy them immensely.
Right. So first of all,
You
nobody's
listen
going to
to
believe. Well, no, you don't. You can watch them as well because they're on YouTube. But I was just going to say, first of all, I know you're lying there because you sort of say you're very shy. So I know for a fact that's not the case. So don't start as you mean to go on, Julia. That's like the thing. We're very honest and open on the Mortgage Broker Broadcast. So I'm joking, obviously. I'm absolutely joking. So you all right? Everything okay?
Yes, everything's great actually at the moment. I think, as we all know, it's been quite a turbulent year with everything that's happened in Ukraine and obviously the cost of living crisis, and for us in the mortgage world in terms of the rate changes, etc. So it's been a very strong year in terms of workloads.
Definitely. I think it is certainly challenging right now as a mortgage broker, juggling the rate changes and everything else that's sort of going on a regular basis. So then I think as well, it's like, we've already look at this already, right? We've got a sort of loose agenda and we're already going off tangent already on that, but it is relevant. I think it's a good point that you've made. Straight into the podcast, boom, there you go. Because there's quite a lot of brokers out there that are new into mortgage broking and are struggling with the rate change world that we are currently in or have been in, because it's just, you've got to be so organized, so well structured and so reactive, because it's a case of the rates changing tomorrow and you've now got 2 hours to get it submitted. And so then you're onto the phone to the client trying to get that done. And you've got to be so flexible and adaptable right now as a mortgage broker.
You actually do. And I think this is the key, isn't it? When everyone says, oh, it's so easy to become a mortgage advisor. Yeah, of course it is. And when we had stability in the marketplace and the boom, all we had to deal with was the influx of clients wanting to purchase a house, which was a fantastic position to be in. But when it gets really difficult and dirty and we have to start, really, winding up our sleeves and getting our hands dirty on work, it's really difficult. It's really difficult and stressful. So yeah, it's been an interesting first half.
Definitely. I think it's a baptism of fire, isn't it? I think it is a case of, I got into mortgage broking sort of late 2006, 2007. So it was like, boom, it went from feast to famine overnight. So it was a baptism of fire, but it's good. It's good ground in it. So it gives you, if you can survive this situation, if you can survive that, then you'll survive pretty much everything. And you will just be, it's the norm then. You then, because it is quite funny that you say, oh, I've got my CMAP. Oh, this mortgage broking looks so easy. It's so chilled out. My mortgage broker I've dealt with myself, they're so great. They're so chilled out, so relaxed. And then you then get your CMAP. You then start becoming a mortgage broker and realize that it's the iceberg effect or the swan effect, whatever you want to call it, where literally you are behind the scenes pedaling at 110 mile an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So we've gone straight in without doing any introductions, we've done a bit of a hello and that sort of thing. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for agreeing to come on the podcast. You are the first you're one of the first employees. You're certainly the first employee of Openwork Partnership. So certainly that which we're going to talk a little bit about. But do you want to just explain who is Julie Smith and your background? Because I was doing a bit of research before the podcast. I always sort of look at, not too much, but then look at backgrounds and history and stuff like that. And I never knew you did that. I never knew you did that kind of thing. So it's been good for me. I've learned as well. So over to you in terms of like explaining who you are and where your background and stuff like that.
Thank you. So Julia Smith, married to Jonathan Smith, and Jonathan Smith is a fire safety business manager for the fire service. And we have been married now for coming up to 5 years. And throughout that time, that's the whole time I've been here at Openwork as well. So my history actually came about from leaving school, thinking, actually, I love horses. I had a horse at the time, and I'd been brought up around horses. So that was the career for me. I was going to be a riding instructor. I was going to hopefully go off and get my own equestrian centre and be able to compete. And the world was my oyster, and that's what I would do. The reality of that was somewhat different. So let's just say very quickly, after my apprenticeship, I decided that my riding and competing would be my hobby, and I needed a career that would fund this hobby. So family was fabulous, brought up really by my grandfather, who obviously survived the war, and he set up his own business and was really successful within the motor trade, and just brought that entrepreneurial spirit across to me to say, never give up, you can do it, and let's, what is it that you want to achieve, how are you going to get there, etc. So that's really where it started for me. I went off and had my first job at NatWest Bank in the call centre. Didn't really like being indoors very much because of the external, horse riding. So moved on from that agency job to then a job within financial services at Standard Chartered Bank. My role there was a face-to-face customer account manager, and that was in retail banking. So a lot of personal finance, motor finance, etc. And just to tie in beautifully with the link to horses, they were bought by Lloyds Banking Group, and Black Horse Personal Finance was the name across the door. So I got the link to the horses, and I got the first start into financial services. And for me, it was fantastic. I loved meeting people. I loved helping them. I loved learning about the products. And being in the bank, you had the opportunity to work around different departments within the bank. So for 11 years, I had many different roles within the bank, from customer account manager to running the branch. I was one of the youngest branch managers at 23 with a team of 8 advisors. Went off to be a training manager, helping induct new advisors into our business. And by the time I'd finished my career there, I'd gone into the external world of intermediary. So we used to look after the relationships with a lot of loan providers who would offer second charges and personal loans to clients as well. So for me, it was then the right time to move into financial services from an intermediary point of view. So not now one product, one area. Now let's look at the whole world of mortgages and further to come with investments and pensions.
Wow, that's quite a in-depth, and I like there's so much things in there that it's sort of going back to what you said about your granddad first of all, but I'll come back onto that in a second. But you, in terms of everything that you've done, it's always sort of been leading to what you do right now, because I have the pleasure of working with you in the business and having your help and support, and I sort of see there's always a smile on your face. There's always you're always motivated. Is what you're doing right now, and we'll come on to that in a second, is it what you've always sort of thrived to want? You knew this is something that you wanted to do, what you do now?
Yeah, so what I just told you there was part one, and I think I can probably say that I've had 4 parts of my working career so far. That's
Right.
probably the easiest way to sum it up. So the first part was banking, learning, education, etc. And then from there, I moved into the world of intermediary. And so a lot of external work, working with different national companies and obviously B2B, so getting their business across to our business. So that was great. I then decided, actually, I think I can do this for myself. So I set up my own little brokerage where I focused on working with businesses in the local area. I'm a northern person, so in the northeast of England. Where they did mortgages and they did wealth, I would support them by doing those that they couldn't do. And it started from there. And it came then full circle where one of the businesses I used to look after actually said, we'd like you to come and work with us as a national account manager and help us grow our business. And I said, I really like what I'm doing myself. And they said, but why don't you bring your business into our business and we'll do it together? And so I helped them then create a team of that side of the business whilst we went and developed further parts of their business. So there's a bit of a trend here that I absolutely love, everything to do with entrepreneurship, business development, strategy, process, etc. What I didn't enjoy so much, unbelievably, was after the crash of 2008. I went back to my own little business and was on my own, just treading water more than anything, speaking to clients, doing everything that way. But I really enjoyed that business to business, that development and bigger business plans. So once the recession turned around, obviously I came back into. I then worked for a network and it was into recruitment, and it was bringing the business on, but then handing the baby over to somebody else to develop it. And that's the bit I really enjoyed. I didn't want to let go. So I stayed with the business for a number of years and then moved into directly authorised space for recruitment as well, and helped businesses move from being a part of the network to directly authorised. But again, just missed that whole, how do we now build your business from this block to that block? So moved on then to work with an insurance company. I was a national account manager looking after the strategic relationships with the likes of networks that I'd worked with in the past, and then came full circle to Openwork, where I could help develop businesses in a holistic manner for every product that we have within our proposition, which I absolutely love.
And it's clear to see that that is not something you're lying about or false in terms of from that point of view. The sort of, and I know people are listening to the podcast, but then people do watch it as well. And it's clear to see from your face that it is something that you genuinely have a passion about. And I think that's the thing with it, Julie, is that you are, what motivates, do you have like sort of bad days where you wake up thinking what I'm doing? Or do you have like sort of, where you wake up and think like, I feel so bad today, but I've got to put the face on in terms of working and stuff like that? Or is this is it a good day, bad day, or is Julie like this constantly? And
well, life's too short not to be like this. I think you've really got to get out of bed and enjoy what you do, and it's up to you to make that choice of what you're doing and what you enjoy. And if you don't enjoy it, change it. But for me, I absolutely love getting out of bed and knowing that I work with, the practices that I have the relationships with. I feel like I'm integral to their business, and that we work in partnership so that we can develop their businesses to achieve their goals, but our corporate goals as well. But do I ever have bad days? Well, let's rewind the clock then to 6:30 this morning when I went out for a run and had said to Johnny, my husband, you will leave the back door open for me, won't you? And guess what? He didn't. So it could have been a bad day, but I managed to walk to my in-laws to get the key to be able to let myself back in. So yeah, we all have up and downs, and we all have to deal with the good and bad of everything. But I think having a positive outlook and being able to deal with change is a big thing, and that's something I certainly thrive on. I'm not afraid to challenge the status quo. I am an ambassador for what I believe is right. And I do have a great connection of key stakeholders in this business and in the industry who I can turn to when I need help to keep that positive outlook, keep us all moving forward.
No, and that's the thing. So you saw, obviously, Johnny's sort of done a schoolboy error there and left not done that. But you're looking for the solution, not the problem. So you are then on to several hours later, we've had a meeting before, as we do on a regular occasion, regarding the business and your support from from yourself and within Openwork from my business point of view. But you don't let it sort of like, you then quickly move on. It's like, okay, well, you're looking for the solution. You don't let it hinder your day. Guaranteed you won't be doing that again, because I'm sure that there's been sort of some consequences from him sort of not leaving the that open. But in terms, like, just something you sort of said there in terms with regards to businesses and loving what you're doing and the support side of things. Like, I talk quite a lot about where business owners is a bit like, you don't have the support. There's a lot of accidental principals of firms out there that, like, I was talking to one the other day who feels a bit lost because they've been thrown into the depths of running a firm, and it wasn't their choice to do that, but just the circumstances that happen. And working with somebody like yourself, because like I say, with regards to business owning, it is quite lonely. It can be lonely if you've not got a partnership, if you've not got. Whereas you're also like the shining light for a lot of business within Openwork, because you do play more of the devil's advocate role. You do not ultimately the business owners, it's their decisions, but you do help and support them with those decisions. And like you say, you're not there to tell them what to do, but then help and support them. So you must get quite a buzz out of that as well, in terms of that development side of things, because that's really, yes, business development, like your title, which I still don't, as regional business consultant at the Openwork Partnership, which is on your LinkedIn. But I know that's a lie again, because that's literally, you are up and down the country. You deal with people in the north. Like, what's the region? The UK? Is that what the region is now?
Yeah, absolutely is. Yeah, it is. It's Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northeast, Northwest, Southern. It's everywhere. But it gives me the experience, and I think one thing that's really good is to be able to use that experience to help others and let them make the decision, but give them the information to make an actual balanced decision. It's exactly the same as what advisors do when they're speaking to their clients about their mortgage, about their protection, about their investments, etc. I'm just doing exactly the same job with a business owner, and I'm pulling in my key contacts who also have that experience, a bit like a GP, to bring in specialists should we need them. But my job is to help understand what the business model is, understand what the future of the business wants to look like, and understand what the succession plan needs to look like as well. So we're on a journey, and we want a short-term plan, a medium-term plan, and a long-term plan. And my job is to help business owners understand what is going against them at the moment, what hurdles do they have in their way, and how do we as the Openwork Partnership help them overcome those hurdles, maybe not overnight, but in a structured plan of how it can be achieved. So I really do, and I do help my team as well by coaching them in circumstances so that they're able to take the reins as well and help these businesses, so that there's a bit more of a wider net. There's not just me, there's a team of us who can support.
I think it's a good point that you make, that with regards to, like you said, it's about, it's not a one hit for you, and then you don't work with businesses that, and then it's the first month or two and then they're on the way kind of thing. You are with them for their journey. So that must be, and the beauty of it, what you sort of said there, was that you can sort of see what's gone on with another firm. So like with me, you could see something that we've done or that's not worked, and you could be a business owner elsewhere that's a similar sort of business thinking, oh, we're going to do this. And then you can draw on those experiences because of the variety of firms you work with at various locations in the UK. It's then you can help and support those business owners to make that choice. Ultimately, it's their decision, like you've said, but it's then helping them give a far greater chance of making the right decision based on experiences elsewhere. So that must be that's quite a powerful thing that you've got right there, Julia.
It's so rewarding. I would hate to curtail anybody's enthusiasm because I'm very enthusiastic myself. And, if someone said you can't, I turn that into I will. And, that's the same as I want to do with everybody else. But what I definitely want to do is to minimize their risk, to minimize our risk as a business, and to work together collectively to make sure the decision is the right one to make. I think one of the great things that we did this year, and you've been part of this, Craig, and I'm sure you agree, is we actually created this growth peer group, like-minded business owners and also senior management of different businesses that I look after across the UK to come together and share best practice and share ideas and, take those little snippets away and putting them into your own business plan and then, reviewing it together where we look at what ideas we need to now move forward with. It's just a joy, it really is, to see businesses really thrive and do well.
Absolutely. I think that's it's not, you're there seeing the real, you'll see the nitty gritty one, you'll see the really good, like for yourself, like you say, you're always motivated, you're always positive because that's where you feel that's part of your role, and you will sort of have meetings with principals of firms and business owners and you'll sort of be able to instantly read, well, then they might be not in a good place right now. And so then it's about you picking them up, and you can't go in there and start having that whinge and moan and the negativity and stuff like that, because then you're just on a downward spiral. It's then you've got that pick me up of like, well, I need that injection. I need that sort of like, well, no, let's look at what you have been doing that's gone well. Yes, that's not gone so well, but let's look at how you deal with that and move forward, because you're always focusing on the long term. Obviously, there's a short term plans, but you're looking at the long term growth in that. And we all know what it's like. We'll all have 2 forward, 1 back, 3 forward, 4 back kind of thing. It just depends on where we're going. But you've always got to look at, and we talked about this, like you've always got to feel as though you're moving forward, and it's always about gains within that. But you must sort of see some real big highs, some real big lows, but all through that, you don't seem to be affected by anything from a negative point of view. And that's takes quite a unique mindset. And is that how you've always been? Is that sort of something that was installed from the start, or?
It's well. So actually, when I was younger, I was so impatient. And when things went wrong for me, especially in the horse world, especially when I was competing, I used to think, what am I doing wrong? Why is it going so wrong? Why can't I get it right? What have I got to do? And, you can't blame your animal in this because they can only do what you're telling them and what they've learned from you. And you have to have patience, and you have to be able to be more clear with your messaging so that they understand. So I kind of put that into my business world as well. We need to build a brand that is, you're proud of, that people will respect and want to be part of, and you build a business that you can see sustainable growth. It's not just highs and lows all the time. It's really sustainable. And, you do have to take the knocks. We know ourselves, there's been occasions where people have left businesses and you've thought that they'll be here for the long term and it's not been the right thing for them, but you can't see that straight away and you think, God, this was like the perfect home for you, but all of a sudden it's not. You can see businesses change their model as well. There's lots of evolving, and you have to be able to evolve. That's not having thick skin and burying your head in the sand. That's being able to adapt to change, see the future, look at what's coming down the line, and be able to react to it in a positive way.
And I know we're going to be politically correct on the podcast, but you must sort of see firms and business owners that do adapt and adapt very quickly and do thrive and do grow. And you must have business owners that you might have worked with in the past or from past experiences that don't adapt and don't thrive. And I think given the way that the mortgage broker world is forever evolving right now, it is such a great time to be a mortgage broker, but a very challenging one. It's easy to sort of, from a business owner's point of view, you've got to have the right mindset to see that you have to change, because if you've been doing it for a number of years and you've always done it that way, and this is how you've always done it, and you might have been successful doing it, and you will have been successful doing it that way, but like in the way that we are now with the world and stuff like that, you've got to look to adapt that. So do you find that there's business owners out there that you work with that do embrace adapting, and people that don't embrace adapting the businesses?
Absolutely. I think last year I had the opportunity to be part of a business called Belbin. Belbin is all to do with behaviour of individuals and how these individuals work within teams. So everybody, you and I, will have different makeup in terms of, what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are. And you can kind of relate that to different types of business owners. So if you've got your business works well when you've got really good strength around you, that strength is made up by people with different types of behaviors. And those behaviors then work together. They might clash, but they also might dovetail together. So if you're a business owner on their own, my advice is to make sure that you have a really good, strong leadership team around you. And that could be myself, one of our telephone account managers, someone from your compliance team, etc. But it's making sure you've got those people around you who are going to be telling you what's coming down the line if you're not aware of it, so that you can at least try and adapt. But if that's not in your makeup, then again, it's going to be quite a difficult road in this industry.
Yeah, definitely. I think, but the things you're sort of saying there is that the benefit of having of working with yourself and as a business owner, having somebody, whether you're part of another network or DA or whatever the case may be, it doesn't really matter. It's having somebody that really does sort of sees your business from on it rather than in it, because it's difficult sometimes as a business owner, your decisions. And if you don't learn from those decisions, and if they've made the wrong decision, but you're very precious around that and and won't accept that you've made a wrong decision and learn from that, it can be a very difficult place, because then you'll be on a downward spiral again, because you're not going to make any decisions in the future. Whereas with yourself, you can have that, you can see the figures if you're an open web, you can see the stats, you can see individuals, you can see what's going on, growth, and how that compares with the rest of the firms. And it's not a management tool to hit firms with, absolutely not. But it's just you sort of see the opportunity that is out there with regards to the business. But having that, you there as somebody that can sort of see, rather than being in it, you'll offer impartial advice. And I think so you don't come with any baggage in terms of the consulting, what you do. You just sort of see it as like, it is very, not black and white, but there's no baggage that comes with that, because it's not yours. Whereas business owners can be very precious about their business.
Yes. So the first thing that needs to happen is there needs to be an element of trust and respect there. My job is not to take the business apart. My job is to help support the business and help it grow. So they need to trust me that I'm not here as a threat, I'm here as an ally. And I see it as peeling an onion. We're going to take the layers back. We're going to get down to the core, and we're going to look at what's in that core. What pillars do you have that's holding the foundation of your business together? What do we need to do to change that, to make it stronger? And we build and build and build from that to, like I say, this isn't going to happen overnight. This is a long-term journey. And what I love about my job is that every month I'm doing this, and we're just building on incremental steps all the time. We're going back to make sure we've checked on what the actions were that we needed to achieve. If they haven't been achieved, we're not going to get the big stick out. We're just going to carry them forward, but look at what effect it's having if we're not changing it now. And can we afford to push it back another month if we need to? And it's just that work of working together to help and support that business owner and their advising team if they have so.
I think it's like you sort of alluded to a little bit before about work. It's like working with a client. It is like a client's got to trust you, and you've got to have a certain rapport. But ultimately, they have to trust you to give them. You're giving them the best mortgage advice. They've got to trust your mortgage advice or pension investment, whatever you're advising them on. But you've got to have that element of trust, because you are stripping back from a client's point of view. You're talking about personal things. You want to know how much to spend on this, how much to spend on that, what they've got coming in, what they've got coming out, what their short-term goals are, long-term goals. It's the same sort of thing. So as a business owner, you should recognize the fact that this is something you will do as a client, as a mortgage broker, or as a financial advisor. It's the same sort of thing to open up to you and sort of say, do you know what, this is, again, you're like having that trust with you from the start to say, look, these are their open doors. There's no smokes and mirrors. There's no anything like that. There's no hidden agenda. At least this is how it is. This is how my business is, because then you can only help those business owners who want to be helped, but then also as well open the doors fully and say, look, this is my business. these are my pillars. Are my pillars right? And am I going in the right direction? Well, that's how the relationship should be. And if you don't want that, that's fine. That's cool. Just don't work with Julie or don't work with somebody like yourself that's a coach and wants to help them grow the business.
Absolutely. And there are businesses out there who are long established on the flip side. So, you've got new people coming into the industry. You've also got long established businesses who don't want or need to change their business plan and their model. And, all we need to think about is, okay, but what happens if? So, we're not saying that something's going to happen tomorrow, but, we live in a realistic world where it probably will. And we need to consider, what do you want that business to look like? If, God forbid, you weren't there tomorrow, do you want the business to continue? What does your will say? Is it a limited company? Who gets the shares? There's all kinds of questions that it is really personable, and it is like taking a Band-Aid off, and it is quite sore to take some of this information and for them to trust you, because then it's when they actually realise, I hadn't considered it, I'm just carrying on as normal, and it goes back to that, if you don't change, then you don't expect any different results. We don't necessarily want any different results, but we just want to protect what you have. So there's a scenario for every business in Openwork where I am. There's a scenario for every business that I can help with.
Do you find that, because obviously we have our regular meetings and we have actions from those meetings, as you would do with a consultant, if whatever you're doing, it's like they're not your actions. It's not your responsibility. It's then sort of the responsibility of the person, the firm, and the person that you're agreeing those actions with. Do you find that sort of working with those people, they're more likely to make those actions happen because you make them accountable? So they don't want Julie to turn up to say, "Oh, I've not done that," or like, do you know what I mean? There's a lot of things they've agreed to do and none of it's been done. It's then, do you find that people are more likely to make things happen and not pull things off? And just something in my mind actually I was in a session yesterday with, and this is recorded for like several weeks in advance, so like it won't be relevant at the time, but the point is relevant that Jonathan Arms, who owns a firm who's doing some sort of consultancy work within Openwork and Partnership, I was on a session with him yesterday, and his point was sort of, busy is the norm. That's the norm now. It will never get less busy, and it will never get all those things you think, I'm going to do that when I'm less busy. I'm going to do that when I'm less busy. I've got to do that when I'm more time. Get real. This is how it is. You will always be busy. He talked about being not busy is now cool, which like I get what was saying with that, but so it's like. And my point with that is that you can always put things off. You can always think, I'm going to do that later when I'm less busy with that. But you've just got to make it happen and put infrastructure your time and your structure to your week to make these things happen, because you will always have stuff to do.
So I think we talked about this earlier, Craig. At Christmas time, one of my colleagues said, I'm sending you a book. And I said, all right, that's lovely. Thanks very much. And John, no, I want you to read it. Don't just laugh. And I said, right, okay. So the book arrived, and it's still on my desk now. I absolutely love it, and I'll refer back to it all the time. So this book is called Burnt Out, and this arrived, and I went, don't be ridiculous. I'm not burnt out. I know I'm working really hard. I know that I am really busy all the time, and little things like, I'll just put off looking at that. And this would be personal things as well, like even the basics, I'll check my renewal for this the weekend after. I'll do this the weekend after. When I'm not at work, I'll do it on that Sunday, things like that. This book put me in context straight away to say, stop right now, you need to read me. First page in, I couldn't put it down, and I had finished it before Christmas. And so over Christmas, I used it as my reset button. And it talks about the world we live in today. Nearly 3 years ago now, we were in an environment where we were out face to face. I was traveling around the country seeing firms face to face. It was a different pace. It was very busy. There was a lot of travel, but it was nowhere near the velocity that we are now with back-to-back meetings on Teams and Zooms, and everything's instant. We've just got this massive influx of data. And that data doesn't stop. It's in your own personal time. You've got Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all these things of just data constantly. And it's overwhelming. And that's the same for our business owners. It's overwhelming. So having that structure, going back to basics, which is not rocket science, it's not reinventing the wheel. This is back to basics, just good old time management of making sure that whatever needs to be done, we're factoring it in to try and achieve it. That's the other thing. We're not trying to say it has to be done. We're just being aware of what the issues are and that we've got them noted down so that we don't lose sight of them, whether that be business or even in personal life.
Absolutely. I think the ironic thing is that we could be busy. Like people I talk to and people I speak to sort of say, "Oh, because I do read quite a lot of books. I will not that I sit all day in day out reading books. There's a time and a place, and there's always that same time of day that I will spend a certain amount of time reading." But the thing is that you could have said, "I'm too busy to even read that book." That's the ironic thing about it, because people say, "Oh yeah, I know I need to read. I know I need to do this. I know I need to do that. But if I had more time." And again, it's like you say, you've learned so much from taking that time out and thinking. And I think everybody has that book. I know there's like books that I read like quite a lot, like I said, but then there's certain books that if somebody said to me, what's one book that you took this from, or like, and now I can instantly recall like the bits and like the top 3 books I've ever read and stuff like, because it's just taking the time to do that, because then just even having that space of thinking, of seeing a different perspective on your life. Like you said there, we've not even talked about that. It's the personal side of things as well, having the personal time. We talked a bit before, before we start recording, about you, like in terms of your holiday pattern. It's like you had a holiday at the start of the year, you had a holiday at the end of the year, you had 10 months of continuous burnout in terms of what we took. Whereas and I was the same, whereas now it's a case of you like work so hard, you have some time off, you work so hard. Yeah. It's like I learned that. It's like if you are training for a gym and you're doing like running or things like that, is you've got to have, like, my watch tells me, if I've done something, it then tells me what my recovery time is. So yeah. I wish, how good would that be from a big work point of view? Do you know what? If you had literally a watch that could analyze what you worked and then what your recovery time was with that. Probably might be something there. Probably there might be something obviously in my face thinking, Craig, there's that already and it's this. I can't remember. I don't know what it is. But I think that's it. It's just having that done recovery. Because you're very much a person like me. It's like, if you can do something in a day, do it in a day. Don't spend a week doing something you can do in a day. You're better having a day and then a day to then rest and recover from what you're doing, kind of thing. So, yeah,
we're victims of our own success as well, because one of the hardest things I've found to do is to actually give things away to other people, because I'll go, well, it's just quicker if I just do it myself. But actually, it's not helping the future of our business if you do that, because you can't be here forever. So we need to be coaching others, and we need to be bringing in that new lifeblood into the industry, and we need to share. And again, that works in the personal life as well. What's wrong with handing over jobs to your partner or part of the family who can help and support you, so that everybody is engaged and we can all work together? It doesn't just have to be you. I think that's a really top tip today, is don't try and do it all yourself. Try and get some support around you.
No, it certainly is. I think it is. There's certain things that you can only do yourself. Absolutely. And people will I haven't got time to delegate. I haven't got time to get other people involved and things like, and like I say, but there's certain things you can do. And if you went through a day, a week, maybe even a month, and then just looked at what you could delegate, just do an analysis of your working week or working, I tend to find a month that gives you better, because there's certain patterns of certain times as you need to at the start of the month, end of the month, and in between. So just get a month out, go, right, what could I delegate? And having to, I review what every day I will review what I've achieved in the day, and then I'll look and go, could I delegate that? When I was working on delegation, it was something that I knew that I wanted to do. First of all, is accepting that delegation is something you have to do. I think that's the big thing, first of all, is accepting that you do need to delegate. And then what I did was look at Right, that's my Todoist today. Like a long list. I'm old school, written down. There's apps that I use with certain things and Todoist with certain things, but I'm old school and I like crossing those off to say that I've done them. But then I can look back on the day and go, like, that's what I've achieved today. Could I have I put a date at the side of them? Could I delegate that? Could I delegate that? What time did that take to do that? And then you've got somebody then to then go to somebody and say, right, you then know what you've accepted delegation, you know what tasks you need to delegate. You just need to find then somebody, which is then another tough part, is finding somebody that you know and trust to then delegate those things to, kind of thing. But it's a starting point is then knowing that you do need to delegate, whether that's in, like you said, I never even thought of it from a personal point of view. Probably Sarah, my wife, will say, well, you delegate everything to me, but which I probably do to be fair, apart from walking the dog and putting the recycling out. I think that's my list of my sort of jobs. That's it.
You all have your jobs that need to be done, isn't it? So, it's very much a shared responsibility. But, that delegation is something that I've been helping firms recognize, advisor owners recognize that they need support, and then take that first step into, well, how do I actually go about recruiting somebody into my business to do it, to grow, to support me, whether it be outsourced or whether it be actually employed in the business. These are big steps that business owners, think about when they're still trying to do everything and they're up at 6 o'clock in the morning starting work and finishing at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going, kind of can't live like that forever. So we might need to think about how we're going to structure your business so that you can be here tomorrow.
No, very good point and very poignant point. And we just knew this podcast, Julia, would be, we had no agenda. We knew and who knew that we were going to end up talking about books and mindset and delegation and things like that as well. We can't let you leave the podcast without some sort of nominations going on for Women's Recognition Awards and various other things going on, which I know you're quite a humble person. You're not ego or anything like that, but like, how, why, like, why? No, that's not a right thing. Why is not a right question there? How?
That's a good question, because it was the first thing that I thought about this year was, what do I want to achieve and how will I do it and why? And so for me, I had always seen, Women in Finance awards and recognition and all these things, and not just women in finance, but, people of the industry awards, we see them every year. And I just thought, why not me? Why can't I do it? Because what makes me able to put myself forward in these nomination categories is the work that I'm doing with businesses like yourself, Craig, and businesses that are my partners. And it makes me so proud when I write my nominations. This is not easy. It's not a case of someone nominates you. You actually have to fill in an application form. So I've spent many weekends now going, why did I do this again? But when you actually write down what you've achieved with those businesses and how you've made a difference to clients' lives because of the work you've done with those businesses, this is what makes it real for me. And this is a really big point for me. I'm so passionate about being an ambassador for the Openwork Partnership practices to showcase what they're doing in the industry to make clients' lives far better by their quality advice and their continuous service. So for me, it was a no-brainer. Not me taking the recognition, just my name that's going forward on behalf of everybody that I represent.
Now you take the recognition. It's your hard work, your dedication, your determination, your persistence, which I sort of see and feel every day. So, but I think because there are other firms in other networks that I talk to who talk about protection as it's very much a sales, it's a management thing, a micromanaged and it's not used as a development growth kind of thing. It's very much well, you're not doing this, so you need to do this and you need to do that. And I hear that that's not every other network. And I do get that sort of feeling. Whereas from your point of view, it's a genuine concern for non-protected clients. It's not a sales tool. We don't sell protection. That's not what we do. It's about advice and recommendation and making sure that the customer's covered whatever happens. And you're passionate about that. It's not about sales targets. It's not about this. It's just looking at people out there and families out there that are not protected should the worst happen?
So this has been from day one for me, what products do we have in our offering and what products do our clients need? And then it's an education piece because our clients don't know that they need them specifically. So we need to help and educate them as to what their risks are so we can protect them. What I would hate is if I woke up tomorrow, my next door neighbour didn't have that conversation with an advisor and didn't have that protection in place for them and their families. And that's just for me, that's how it drives me forward to talk with advisors, understand their challenges, and then using the power of our partnership and our product providers and our proposition, make sure they've got all the skills, all of the product information, all of the key drivers to help them deliver this. I don't want them to feel in any way incompetent in speaking to a client about something that's critical. And the point as well is, have they got it themselves? Have they done the right job and protected their own family? Because if they believe in it themselves, then they're obviously able to talk about it to their clients as well. For me, it really does give me sleepless nights. And when you hear claims that have come through from advisors, clients who thankfully had been given the advice but have had catastrophic life-changing injuries or, some really awful critical illnesses, and in some circumstances, unfortunately died. It really does make me so proud to know that the advisors are doing everything they can to ensure they're having those conversations and trying their best to make sure the client understands the value of this, because that value now links into the FCA's new paper on consumer duty and their value and their price and what you're doing when you're giving advice. Now, for me, that is worth its weight in salt in terms of, you're giving that client every piece of information to make sure they make the right choice.
No, definitely. And the thing is it's developing the advisors like you do, and developing advisors in the firms and developing the firms as you do to making sure that because when you're a new advisor, you don't have those stories. Client loves stories. And if you've got a real story about something that's happened where you've advised a client who's taken out protection and the worst happened, so the worst situation in their life is right now, but the claim's paid out, and great that the claim has paid out, and great that they had the protection in the first place, to then the opposite of that, where they have a need to claim, but they've not got policy in the first place because the advisor didn't talk about what can happen what should the worst happen, and sort of being led by the client rather than sticking to guns. And I think that's sort of, we've got to continue with that banging the drum, because there's mortgage brokers coming into all the mortgages that never sold a mortgage before, but they're thinking, I want to be a mortgage broker. They don't have in the mind, I want to be a mortgage and protection advisor. I want to be a mortgage and protection broker. And that's the sort of, so they come in thinking, I just want to talk about mortgages, when actually the protection side of things, whether it's okay to pass that on. I like no advisors that are passionate about the mortgages, but then they hand over to a protection specialist. Fantastic. That's brilliant. Like that, if that works for you and that's how you do it, then that's fine. The client's still having a conversation with a protection advisor about the ways they can lose a home and what the things should be. But it's the stories that you need to have in your bottom drawer in your locker to then become it to real, to then think, actually, I've had somebody that didn't take protection, even though I went through everything with them and they could afford it and but they didn't believe it and didn't take it out for whatever reason. And then the worst can happen. And this is what the consequences were for those people and that family when that happened. So it becomes very real, and clients love stories, don't they? Like they buy into it more when they get those sort of stories.
Yeah. I'm finding it more and more now as well that we are, and rightly so, moving to more of an intergenerational financial advice business. And we've always been this at the Openwork Partnership, but not every firm or every advisor has that in their gift. So their license might be just to do mortgage and protection, but their practice might offer everything from investments, pensions, everything. And I am finding now that, again, this goes back to my banking days, we would meet a client and we would talk to them about their family. So, find out when their children's birthdays are, what the name of the dog was, really basic stuff, but there's nothing nicer than having a relationship with someone who actually knows and takes a liking of you and your family. And so to then be able to talk about the parents' needs, your current needs, and your children's needs is really important, because we want them to feel that they don't need to go anywhere else. They just come to see you, Craig, and you're going to do everything for them because they trust you and they know that within your practice, they've got everything that they need for themselves, their families, and their children. So, that's where I'm heading now. Protection is the underpin. It should be the underpin of everything that we do. And then we should be looking at that life cycle of the client you're dealing with, their parents, and their children.
Julia, what a great point to end on. I think that's really good point to get across to mortgage brokers who listen to the podcast, who watch the podcast, and just to think about it is the way that you structure your appointment, you structure how you signpost protection all through it, and it's a way you talk about yourself as a mortgage broker and a mortgage and protection advisor. Is you differentiating the two and talking about being a protection advisor as well, and just not taking it's part of your fact find, it's part of something you have to do and discuss. So, Julia, finally get you onto the podcast, and with no agenda, we go on for 50 minutes, which we knew we would never struggle in terms of that. And we've gone through and covered so much in that period of time. Like 50 minutes have flown by. We've talked about everything from your past to mindset to book reading to protection to your nominations for your awards. We've covered so much in such a short space of time. Just thank you so much for your time. Thanks for agreeing to come onto the podcast finally.
I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I really do hope that, anybody listening in, if anybody wants to have any support or any chats, please do give me a call, because I'd love to welcome anybody into financial services and find a fantastic lifelong career.
Excellent. And we will tag you into this. We'll make sure that everybody's got your easy to connect you on LinkedIn and you're big on LinkedIn, which I know. So we'll make sure you're tagged in and we'll have all your contact details there, and you will welcome people to reach out to you, just have conversations and look at how you can help them out. And also, Julia, just thank you so much. It's been such a great podcast to record. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll get you back on and not be as long next time. And we'll talk about, we've got plenty of things to talk about, so that are all relevant to mortgage broking. So hopefully we can get you back on.
I'm just writing them down now for future sessions. Thank you so much, Craig. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
That's great. Thanks, Julia. Thanks very much.
Take care.